Welcome back to the SSL Family Dad channel. We are here in the family room of the new Woodland homestead, and we have our freeze drying center set up here behind us. It's that time of year where we're getting, harvest is coming in August, September, October. We've got lots of different things that are coming into season in the stores to purchase, as well as gardens and other things like that we're pulling in. And so this is the time, especially September and October to be freeze drying things, to be preserving your harvest and other things. And so it always brings to mind when we start doing this, when winter is kind of upon us here in Michigan, we kind of start to get inside the house and focus on preparing for winter, for all kinds of different things. And it kind of brings to mind, like, are we prepared for an emergency? Are we prepared for economic changes and other things? I'm not a conspiracy guy. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say the economy is going to collapse and we're all going to die. I do like to be prepared for whatever happens. The coronavirus is a great example of that. We just kind of never know what's going to happen in the world, and it's best to be kind of prepared with things. Food is definitely a huge portion of that. We want to make sure that if we have whatever happens in the world, there's mass, runs on the grocery stores and other things like that we've got some supplies and things like that can help us get through, just to make those times easier for us. So one of the things we've been doing ever since we got this freeze dryer, obviously, is freeze drying things. And so this is a Harvest Right freeze dryer. I will put a link in the description to this. They make several different models. They're not super cheap, but it is an investment. But obviously it's a long-term investment into your family's emergency preparedness and things. And so there's lots of different ways to go about preserving food. There's lots of different ways to go about being prepared. So I'm going to just kind of share with our theory on it and what we do here. Kind of go through a few of the different ways that we do that. So I'll talk about the freeze dryer specifically to start, in a couple different ways that we use that to prepare. So some of the things that we noticed, like when the coronavirus hit, that were really hard to get in the stores were like fresh meats, all the kind of fresh things. This is the stuff that can't set on the shelves for very long, so other than toilet paper, was like milk and meats and all that kind of fresh stuff that needs to be constantly coming into the store every day. So when there's something going on in the world, when there's some kind of emergency or whatever happening, those supply chains get interrupted first. And so one of the ways we've been kind of mitigating against that kind of stuff is, like, the freeze dryer, you can do milk, which is nice. So you can freeze dry, we get an extra gallon of milk, when they're on sale or when the prices are low or whatever, and we'll just throw it in the freeze dryer, and you can make powdered milk. And then all you need to do for this, this will last for 10, 15, 20 years in here. All you need to do is just take this, add water to it, and you've got milk again. Same thing with our vegetables and stuff. Obviously, this stuff wasn't as hard to find, because you can buy canned vegetables that last a long time, and you can can your own vegetables that will last a long time. You can freeze dry any kind of vegetables from your garden harvest, obviously, and this is a little bit longer term than canning. Canning is great. This is a little easier also. You throw it in there, you press the button, you walk away, you go about your life, and then you come back and you throw it in one of these things. So it makes it a little bit easier. So you can definitely do that. And then the other thing, we have chickens, obviously, and so we have an abundance of eggs all the time, and we're able to take some of our extra eggs when they kind of stack up on the counter, we've got too many, we'll throw a batch in the freeze dryer and make powdered eggs. Again, this lasts a long time, and you can take this and just add water to it, and you have eggs. You can cook them, scramble eggs, and make omelets or whatever with it. So you can also do whole meals in here. So if you're cooking chili or tacos or soup or whatever, you can make a double batch and then take extra of that and throw it in the freeze dryer, and you can freeze dry entire meals already pre-cooked and ready to go. All you need to do is just add water, warm them up, and you've got a meal. So the freeze dryer is a huge way for us to have a couple weeks of food, a couple months of food on store, where we've got some of those things that are harder to get. So another thing that we do is grains. So we have we get these on Amazon. Every once in a while I'll just grab one of these. These can be stored in buckets or containers of some sort, like airtight containers, or they can just be stored like this, as long as they're in a place where mice can't get to them. But this is a great way. I'll do a video later on in the year about how to make your own flour and how we use that. But you can take this is just wheat berries, and you can get a mill of some sort, a hand mill or an electric mill, and you can mill your own flour, which you can make all kinds of different things with. That stuff lasts a long time as well. And so you can just have a couple of those on hand, and that'll give you tons of extra food. Of course, you can buy canned goods and other things. Canned goods are a great way to, you should always have some of the essentials, the things that you eat the most, rotated through in a pantry. That's just kind of standard being prepared. You can't keep these for 10 years, but this stuff lasts. You can kind of rotate through your cupboard with that kind of stuff. Obviously, you can can your own vegetables and meats and other things like that, but the freeze dryer really is the way that we prefer to do it. And then the other thing is fresh fruits. So the fresh fruits don't last a long time around here, so we're trying to get ahead and get some in storage, but the freeze dryer is a great way to do that as well. So right now it is apple harvest season here in Michigan and in the Northeast. So apples are super cheap. So we went into the store, they've got a sale on 99 cents a pound apples, or 89 cents a pound apples, or even less sometimes. And we'll just buy a few pounds of apples, or 10, 15, 20 pounds of apples, and then throw them in the freeze dryer. These are great for kids' snacks, and that's why they don't last a long time around here, because the kids love them. But obviously this stuff will store as well. And you can do the same thing with fresh fruits, farmers markets. You don't have to grow everything yourself. If you can't do that, you can go out and hit the local farmers markets when things are in season, or even the grocery stores. Oranges will come into season here in January and February, and so they'll be super cheap. We'll go grab a bunch of those, and you can cut those up, and you can freeze dry that kind of stuff too. So there's lots of ways to be ahead and prepare. The one thing that I think is hard for a lot of people, and the reason I think a lot of people don't prepare, is because they think it's going to cost a ton of money. Because what you want to do is you start to think about preparing. You start to think about getting a stockpile of food and some essentials that you need for maybe a couple weeks to get you through an emergency or whatever. And you want to go out to the store and you want to just buy like all this stuff. You want to spend thousands of dollars on pre-packaged meals in containers, and 500 years worth of toilet paper, and canned goods and dry goods and emergency meals and like water, and you want to just go out and do all that at once. And you can certainly do that if your budget can afford it, but most people are not going to be in that category. So what we do is we just do a little bit at a time. We should constantly be kind of getting ahead with what we have in emergency storage with our food. And a lot of times that means hitting the sales, hitting the when you see things on sale, whether it's meats, whether it's milk, whatever it is, and then preserving that stuff for ahead of time. That could make just smart economic sense if you do get into the system of using those things, buying things when they're cheap and using it when it's more expensive. You could really help yourself financially, I guess, throughout the year as well. But that's really the way to do it. Just do it little by little, and just start to have some things, in your pantry, in a closet, in a cupboard. Get some things kind of stocked up, just so that it makes your family's experience a lot better when things change in the world. I think that the recession in 2008, 2009, and the coronavirus have taught us. Most of us have been through those two things, and they've taught us that things can change, and we never really know what will look like. In fact, the Bible tells us that things will never be perfect here in this world, and that we will always have, the world is in a state of decay because of sin, and so we will always have trouble. Things are never going to be, we're never going to live in this utopia here on earth, and so we should always acknowledge that, I think, and just prepare. So I would love to hear from you guys. There's some tips and tricks from us and what we do and are doing. Since we moved into this house, we've kind of adjusted. We don't have as much of the farm animals. We don't have the pork coming in. We don't have a lot of the same size gardens and other things. And so we're adjusting how we use things and how we get things and how we preserve things. And again, the freeze dryer has been a huge part of that. So link in the description to the freeze dryer, the wheat berries, and some of the other stuff that we use and get. And I will be doing a video on prepackaged emergency food systems later on here, probably either towards Christmas or after Christmas, so you can look forward to that as well. So we'll talk about those and the benefits of those types of prepackaged systems that you can get as well. But let me know what you guys do. What is your storage and emergency preparedness kind of mindset, and what are some things that you do to help mitigate the cost of those things and getting into that kind of thing and thinking ahead a little bit? I'd love to hear from you guys about that. Of course, don't forget to hit thumbs up on today's video. Subscribe if it's your first time here. Lots of gardening and homesteading and preparedness type things here coming up on the channel, so love to have you tag along. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one.